Hey, what's up, dudes? Well, so I tried to code earlier in stream, and I was like, this cold really had been wearing me down, and I was like exhausted. I was literally like too tired to code, so I just ended up cutting it short and taking a nap. Slept for like 2.5 hours. It was nice though. It was a good nap, but woke up, went to the gym. It's like it comes in waves, you know. I'll feel better, and then I feel worse. It's like it's weird, but I guess it's also has to do with like the medicine. The medicine like makes me feel like I'm better, and then I'm not. And when the medicine starts to wear off, I'm like feeling shitty again. So yeah, so here we go. Let's do this. I gotta get something done because I'm so close to finishing it. I really want to make it happen. So we were in the middle of determining which functions and all that we're going to end up keeping for the save system, and like how the final form is going to be implemented. And basically what we're going to do here is we're going to use we're not going to, I don't even think we're really going to do the quote-unquote checkpoint system. Maybe we will, but I think overall we're just going to end up using, at least to start, just a single checkpoint, and we're going to use globals to save the data. I think we went over that last session, using globals to do this, and I think it's really simple and it's gonna work. So we're just gonna create this master list. So that's like our 2 tasks right now. I would say the number 1 task is probably gonna be creating the list that we're gonna use, the master object list. And then the second task would be determining, like, since we're doing this new system, which functions are we gonna get rid of. So I'm gonna go ahead and let me go to things to do. Let's see what we got here. Context management for DB release. Yes. This is not like a pressing issue. We can implement that though at some point. Not right now. Not really worried about it, because it's just not a pressing issue. So I'm just going to add it to the non-pressing. I really am at this point only taking care of things that are like really important. If it's not important, I'm not worried about it. Oh yeah, and we need to test the append pop clear save logic and custom append list append. Although we tested and verified everything's working. And doesn't this suck? We did work on that code a lot, and we actually might not end up using it. See, that's what we're gonna have to do. So it's unfortunate. I have gotten pretty good, for the most part, about writing code that doesn't get thrown away. But every now and then, I go in the wrong direction, or I don't know something, and then I realize something later. And I think this might be one of those cases where we may end up like not using this function. So what we're gonna do is determine which functions in save logic that we are going to use in final save system. And this is L. Oh, that's not good. Since we determined we are using globals now for save system, determine which functions to use / remove. Such function such as the custom append list save function, etc. may not be necessary now, since globals includes this data. And then the second thing we need to do is to finish populating the, what do we call it exactly? It's called the master, there it is, master save object list. Database.master save object list. Okay, yep, so that's what we need to do. Yeah, and that's very self-explanatory. I guess basically we should go through each file and figure out which data needs to be saved. Go through each file and determine which data needs to be saved. Now, let me just time out right quick. Let me just make sure I got this straight. So I don't want to do what I did with this custom append list function thing, where I create code and or like, you know, I don't want to waste my time on a task that is not going to be used or whatever. You know what I mean? I hate that. It's terrible. It's the worst. It's just the worst. It's demoralizing as well, because it's like, man, I wasted that time. It's just like literally lost time. So I just want to talk myself through this, make sure I'm going in the right direction here. So we determined that we're going to use in client pi, we're going to use in the main while loop. This is going to be our primary save system, which is as we iterate through this main while loop, not this one, but this one down here, right here. So main while loop. At the beginning of it, basically, we are going to save all the data, all live data, using this master save object list in tandem with the globals function or method, whatever you call it. And what it's going to do is iterate through that list, that object list, which is a list of strings of object names, namespaces, that is, in the form of strings, and that is going to grab each one of those using globals and get the associated value, and that's how we're going to save the data. So we're just going to iterate through this list, accessing the live data through globals, saving it to the database every iteration of the while loop, and whenever we disconnect, we will just, when we load back in, we will load from the database and apply the data, make it live again through the load function, which we created here, the load state. ChatGPT helped me do this, but we ended up modifying it a lot. But anyway, so load state is basically just going to iterate through the database to determine which one was the most recently saved, the two databases, the backups, that is, and it's going to figure out which one we're going to load from, and then it's just going to run this for loop here, and these 1, 2, 3 lines of code that's going to load in every thing that was saved. So like P1 name, P2 name, P1 hand, etc., etc. And since only the pertinent data is saved, that means we're not like wasting any computation or time or whatever. Like, we're not loading in any junk. We're only loading in exactly what we need, because we're loading in what we saved, and we're ensuring that we're saving only the things that we need. Nothing extra, nothing more, nothing less. And that is why we're creating this list. And like, honestly, that pretty much implies we're not going to use this custom append list function. The purpose of this was to save the purpose of it was to save the data associated with cards being transferred and stuff. But I'm quite certain from asking ChatGPT and all that this data is accessible through globals, because of the fact that we have, let's see here, let's see if this is true. So since we import P1 and P2, and we have the P1 hand, which is like the player's hand. It's consists of cards, right? So let's go ahead and open that up real quick. So let's go to player, and then the attribute here is the hand, and then we have the skeleton version of the hand. We can't actually save the hand itself because the hand consists of cards, and the cards have Pygame objects associated with them. So not only can't we save those because that's data isn't serializable to the database, but we don't need it. We only need the skeleton version of the associated card group. So in this case, we would be grabbing the I thought it was just called like the skeleton hand, but I don't actually see that. So do we not have it as an attribute? Like, it's not actually an attribute or anything? Because we need that to be, well, we need it to be accessible by globals. That's really all we need. So hand would be accessible, but where is like the skeleton hand? Let me think about how this process works. So whenever we append, pop, or clear using a custom append list, and the hand is an instance of a custom append list, then the card gets added to the skeleton list. But like, in what way does that exist? Because if it's a local, it's not going to be accessible by globals. So let's see. Let's go to custom append list, and then let's go to, here we go. So we have, here it is. Okay. So it's not an attribute of player, it's an attribute of custom append list. So we don't actually import custom append list, but we do import setup, right? Yeah, we import setup, and setup inherently creates all of these custom append list instances. See? So we have the skeletons aren't custom append lists, right? Yeah, they're not. So that's not where they come from. Ref list 2. Oh, see, so this is how it's done. See, it's been a while since I looked at this code, but what happens here is whenever we append a card, let's see if we can find this. This is applies the skeleton card data from the list to the skeleton list for the purpose of data transfer. If card group name is in skeleton list tube and change mode executable false, if card is in a string type item lower, if self in self card group, data transfer function, cal object in self ID unit, cal to player, skeleton player data, item ID. So we don't actually have a quote-unquote skeleton version. We don't actually have that. So yeah, I don't think that like globals wouldn't actually have access to this. This is local data. Okay. So let me think about how this would work. This is a little bit more complicated. Yeah, we don't actually have skeleton card groups. We just use the namespace of the card group and add skeleton onto it. And that gets transferred like immediately. It doesn't actually get saved. It's not like a data structure that's called like the skeleton hand, which is a reflection of the hand. But we don't actually need that, do we? What we need is the card's ID, and we need the card's well, let's say we're dealing with the card group, the player's hand. What we need is to iterate through that card group and to extract the ID of each card. So, like, technically, we could just access the data through accessing the card through globals. So let's see. How do we do this exactly? Using globals. Let's ask Python. How do you access a class instance's attribute using globals? Normally you do not access class instances attribute through globals. Globals gives you a dictionary of global variables, not the attribute of objects. If you really want to, you would get the instance, which must be a global variable. Which must be a global variable from globals. Then use getAttr to access the attribute. And what that's gonna do so we would get the P1 hand, and then, well, that's actually an attribute. So we would just access P1 from globals, but then we would still have to access P1 hand through the attribute. So we'd either have to use getAttr or, like, you know, you'd have to do it like this. Instance from globals, and then the value. Okay. And then we would have to just iterate through that. And we would basically just create an ID list and extract all of the skeleton data from it. And normally we do that sort of thing in custom append list when we append pop or clear. But I don't know. I don't know if I want to do it like that, because custom append list is already so bloated and, like, it has so much going on. I would prefer to just probably do all these actions inside of, like, the save logic, save function or whatever, you know. And it's not going to be slow per se. It's not going to, like, be quote unquote faster. The action is going to be done. It's just going to be done at a different point in time. Like, the methodology is might be, like, a little tiny bit slower, but it's not going to be so slow that, like, I'm not worried about that. The performance is going to be fine. So I'm not going to micromanage the performance to the degree that I want to bloat custom append list anymore, because it's already, if you can see this, there's a lot going on in here, and I don't want to add any more to it. It's just too much. So we're not going to do it like that. We're going to use save logic, basically. So, like, in the save function, I guess we'd say in save state, we're going to iterate through the master save object list, and that's going to have, I guess, each card group. And then if it's a card group, we're going to okay, so this is going to be a little tiny bit more complicated, not like extremely, but I'm seeing that the way globals works is, let me just put a note here. Remember that globals returns instances of classes, not actual instance adders. We have to access those after the fact through the retrieved instance. So we can use globals to access all of the instances, but we're gonna need to then, based on whatever instance we're grabbing, we have to then grab each attribute that we want. Yeah. So what we need to do is, for name in self master save object list, we are then going to, I'm unsure if this would work with skeletonized objects since I'm not sure they exist as global adders. Okay, yeah, so we know the answer to this question now. That's what we just figured out. And that's going to be, let's see. We basically have to have a little bit of extra code, so it's not just going to be 3 lines. We're going to have some more. So ultimately what we're going to do is we're just going to save the skeleton version of the cards. And let me just make sure real quick. Yeah, see, we can't just like save the entire instance of card because, first of all, the card is a sprite object. So like you can't even save it. You can't even serialize it because you can't serialize Pygame objects. At least I haven't been able to figure out. Like, there's a way to do it, I think, but it's not important. We basically just grab the stuff we need from it and create like a skeleton version of it, if that makes sense. We've done it a lot. That's how we do data transfer. It's very efficient, clean, and lean. You grab only what you need. So once we iterate through this master save object list, we're then going to have to, for card groups, we have to create a skeleton version of the list by iterating through it and creating a list of the card.ids. Yeah, so the card IDs. For card groups, we have to exit. We have to create a skeleton version of the list by iterating through it and creating a list of the card IDs. So this also means I'm going to put don't forget to add in logic to the load function to account for this. We have to convert the list of IDs to a list of associated cards. Just like data transfer, same thing. Now, do we get out of logic? Okay. We also have to get the cards XYs. So let's say 4 card groups, and then we'll have what we need to do first is 1, create a skeleton version of splitting through to give us the card IDs, and this is just a thing we need to remember. And then number 2, we need to create a skeleton version of the list by iterating through it and creating a list of the card IDs. And then we need to actually, we're gonna slowly convert this to pseudocode. So for card groups, we'll say if a card group we're actually going to start with iterating through it. So iterate through it. And inside of the iteration, we're going to create a list of the card IDs. So the first thing we have to do, actually, before we begin iteration through it, in terms of code, we would have to create an empty skeleton list. For ID population. Begin iteration through actual card group. And then this is actually going to be append card ID for each one to this, we'll just call it skeleton list. So we have the skeleton list, population, begin iteration through actual card group, append card ID to skeleton list. Now, what about the X, the Y, and the display layer? Because we do need that as well. We need the X, the Y, the display layer. Let's see. Append the card IDs to the skeleton list. Don't forget to add a logic for each one for this. So after we append the card ID to the skeleton list, can't we do this, like, since we're already iterating and we already have the card, should we do that separately? Should we just iterate through each card in the card group data to grab every single card? Because wouldn't that be a global? Like, wouldn't we be able to access that through globals? Let's see. What exactly is... I get mixed up on this a lot. Say card group. Because we have the card group... Well, that's going to be a lot of results. It's in game. Let's see. Game card group. That's a sprite. The card group dictionary. That's the one I want. Make, right? Card group dictionary. Is that the one I want? Card group dictionary. Do I even still have the backup file? Why do we even have client old and client backup? I thought we got rid of those. Anyway, I'm not worried about that right now. That'll be another time. So card, client back, we're looking for game. And why is this showing card group? I thought we changed this. Why did it go back to dictionary? Card groups and a dictionary. Alright, card group dict. Let's find this. Okay, so this is the dictionary where the key is equal to the card ID, and and then the val is the associated object. So this is indeed a list of all the cards, but isn't the card group itself? Couldn't we just access the card group? Not the card group dictionary. The card group dictionary allows us to see card sprite group add. Depends card in the game card sprite group. So technically we could just access the cards that way, right? Yeah, I think. What is the card sprite group? Like, is this a way for us to access the X and Y of the card? Because I don't think we use it that way, but I think we could. So it's just a sprite group. Pygame sprite layer dirty. It's just a dirty sprite group. So I don't want to use that. I don't know how that works exactly. It's fine. We can just use the card group dictionary. It's not that big of a deal. So let's see. We'll use the card group dictionary instead because I know like that works. Like that's how we usually do this. Like with data transfer. See, we say card equals game, card group dict at the int of the card ID. So this contains every single card. Whenever we run setup here, when we create each card initially, they're all existing in the card group dictionary. So we can use this. Basically, we just iterate through the list of like values, right? What's the syntax for this? We need the exact syntax. We don't need that. Where were we working? Not in client. Here. Okay, save logic. If a card group, create empty skeleton list. Begin iteration to actual card group. Append card ID to skeleton list. Don't forget to add in logic to the load function. Load function on reconnect to account for this. Okay. Now, so this isn't going to happen here. Let me. We'll add this. This will be another if. This will be elif. Well, the thing that we would be accessing would be game card group dictionary. And it's not P1 game, it's just game. So we do import that in client, like we have to, right? Because we have to use it, so it obviously has to exist there. What is this? What is this? So let's see. Game. So we actually don't import game. Oh yeah, we do. There it is. Alright, so we import game, and that gives us the access to gives us access to the card group dictionary through globals, And now I'm just like, well, we don't actually have to use globals here, you know what I mean? If we're just using globals to grab the game.cardGroupDictionary, that means like we would first have to have the card group dictionary in this master save object list. And like since we're explicitly addressing it or whatever, we don't need globals. Globals is just a way for us to access it. Like since we're creating this function with explicit reference to the game card group, like this card group dictionary, wouldn't we just reference it directly? Like why do we need to say globals at game card group dictionary? Why don't we just access it like this? Why don't we just begin iteration through the card group dictionary? Well, we can, but this does mean that we would have to have this inside of the master save object list. Yeah. So basically what we're doing here is the same thing for data transfer. We're associating a namespace as a string from master save object list with an actual object, and wouldn't we then just use a dictionary and have the key because we do have to have an identifier. It couldn't just be a list of the actual objects. We would have to have a dictionary where we had, just like the database consisted of the object name and then the associated value. So we would have the key in this case would be game.cardGroupDictionary or just cardGroupDict, and the associated value would be the game's card group dictionary. And then once we begin iteration through this dictionary, we would just check each key using a series of if elifs, just like we do in dir check. So it would be, yeah, we would just say elif the name, like elif key, because when you iterate through a dictionary, you're iterating through the keys, right? So you're saying, so we're not actually going to use globals, I don't think, at least for saving. Now, I don't know about loading. For loading, to apply the data, so it's a lot. It's a lot. So the concept is still the same. It doesn't really matter if we use globals or not. It's nothing to get hung up on. So let me go ahead and, what should I write here? I think I'm going to go ahead and put that we should probably we could do the dictionary thing. I think that would be easy. But if we're gonna have special logic for like each thing, each entry, you know what I mean? do we really need a dictionary versus just a list of the names? Because at that point, the list really just becomes a reference. It's really just like to make sure we have a list that we can go through as a checklist, basically, to make sure we have everything that we need. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dictionary with the namespace as the key and the actual object as the value. Because if we're going to have an explicit section for each object, then that means we don't really need the dictionary aspect to access the object. So let me think about this. I don't know the best way to do this. It's sort of like 6 one way, half a dozen the other. But I do want to make like the right choice. I want to make the best choice. I think that if we used, maybe if we used a dictionary, that would be probably the best thing. Name and self-master save object list if a card group. So instead of this being a save object list, it would just be a save object dictionary. Yeah, we don't need a dictionary. We don't. We just need a list of the object names. I think it's that simple. Yep. Yeah, we don't need a dictionary. We'll just use a list. Yeah, so that's settled. Alright, so if a card group, create empty skeleton list for ID population, begin iteration through actual card group, append card ID to skeleton list. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Then we would just, we're not going to use blob equals pickle dumps globals. Instead, we're going to use I'm seeing the complexity of this. I'm seeing the specifics. It's playing through in my mind here, of how we would have to load in the data, and like if we used globals, we would and again, I think it's basically the same concept for loading versus saving. I don't think we have to use globals. Like, for instance, if we're dealing with the card group name dict, we're just going to check. We're going to have a list of if elif for loading, and then we're going to say elif the name of this object is called game.cardGroupDict, then we know to assign the game.cardGroupDict. We basically would create an empty dictionary, and then we would like create, we would just well, wait a second. We don't actually need to save the actual card group dictionary, do we? Because the card group dictionary is a list of cards. It's a static. It doesn't change. Whenever you reconnect, we are going to run setup. We have to rerun setup. When setup is rerun, that is going to what is setup going to do? Well, when you run setup, that's going to run all this preliminary stuff that gets you ready. It's going to create the card group dictionary. It's going to populate the card group dictionary. What we do need is the X and the Y. So, but we're using the card group dictionary to get the X and the Y. So it's really just phrasing. How do we phrase what we're doing here? I.e., what would the actual object that we're iterating through be called? Well, I guess we would say the card group dict, because that is how we would access each card. And then when we access the card group dictionary, we're just gonna iterate through it, grab each card. Let's see. This game, we're going to begin. Let's see. Begin iteration through dictionary, and then we're going to we need the cards X, Y, and display layer. So how do we save this? Like, do we save... What format do we do this in? We could have a dictionary associated with each card and have the first value be the X, the second one be the Y, and then the third one be the display layer. That's one way to do it. Or we could have a list, because we'd have a list of 4 elements. The first would be the card's ID, the second would be the X, the third would be the Y, and the fourth would be the display layer. I think that might be a little easier, and what that would allow us to do is whenever we loaded, we would just that means we would have to have a overall dictionary, and I guess we would just call that basically the skeleton card group dict. Trying to think of how exactly to do this without fudging up namespaces and making it confusing. So we would have to basically just create just like we did for a card group, we would create an empty skeleton card group dictionary. For card data population, and then we would begin iteration through the actual dictionary. Once we came across the first card, how would we do this? This is going to iterate through the IDs, right? Begin iteration through actual dictionary. Then we're going to create a list for the current card. Create an empty list for the current card's data called current card. Well, it doesn't really matter what it's called. Yeah, we just call it current card data, right? And it'd be in a dictionary versus a list. It's really like, it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Honestly, we could just create a tuple, since it's gonna be like, we don't have to append to it, right? So we could create a list for the current card's data called current card. We could just do a one-liner, actually. We could create a tuple. For the current card's data. Consisting of because at this point we're iterating through the actual dictionary, meaning we have direct access to this card object. So what we're doing is we're just going to create a tuple called current card data tuple, consisting of the card ID, the card.x, the card.y, and then the card.display layer. I think that's good. I feel like that's the way to do this. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. It's that simple. So we would create a tuple for the current card data tuple, and then in that case we would just well, actually, you know what? We wouldn't need the card ID, because the card ID is going to be the ID in the skeleton card group dictionary. It's going to be the associated key. So we would say begin iteration to actual dict, create a tuple for the current, and then at that point we would insert this key value pair into the skeleton card group dict. So insert key value pair into skeleton card group dictionary using via insert key value pair to skeleton. That would be done using skeleton card group dict at card.id equals current card data 2. Yeah. So how do we get the card ID? What namespace is that going to be under? Create namespace. Begin iteration to actually predict. So it would be, we'd be iterating through the keys, and then we would say current card equals game dot card group dict at key. So then we would do current card dot x create a tune for the current cards data. So current card data 2 equals a tube consisting of current card x, current card y, current card display layer, and then insert key value parent skeleton dict using skeleton card group dict at current card ID equals current card group data 2. So we're going to do it like this now. This is actual code. This is going to be crazy. Like that. Bam. We'll let it be green. So key in skeleton, or no, rather game object. Okay. Then current card equals game dot card group dict at key. Or can't you say for key value instead? We'll worry about this at a different time. Create a tube for the current card's data. Data tube equals current card x. Display layer. Alright. Insert key value pair to skeleton dictionary. Like that. Skeleton card group dict at current card ID. Or wouldn't it just be the key? Yeah, it would actually just be key. I mean, we could use either or, it doesn't matter. Because the key is the card's ID. So we just use key. So the card group dict add key. I mean, it's less confusing if we say current card ID. It doesn't matter. It's the same. It's just a different way to refer to the same exact data. So okay, skeleton card group dict at current card ID equals current card data 2. And then what? Insert key value pair to skeleton dictionary. Skeleton card group dict at current card ID is equal to current card data tube. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. No, we don't have to all caps that. So let's add card group dict 2. And then finally, we would say object, or we'll say final object equals the skeleton card group dict. And then blob equals pickle dumps. And then we'll just say final object instead. So then we're going to say else, and this is going to be if the object name, we'll say if name is, doesn't require special logic and can be directly added to DB through using globals. In that case, it would be simple objects like p1.name perhaps. So in this case it would just be the final object would be equal to globals at name. And then we would blob that final object and then execute insert save data, and the object name is going to be well, how do we get the object name? Well, in this case it would have been name. This to actually be object name, and we would say in this case the final object would be globals at name, and then we would just say object name equals name, because for those it's just that simple. And well, maybe like for P1 hand and stuff, the object name we'll figure that out. I'm gonna take a little break. Okay, let's go to database. And actually, I think I'm just gonna take a little quick break. Then I'm just gonna come back and do a little bit more. So I'm gonna go outside, have a breather, and we'll come back and work on this a little bit more. But I think this is good overall. This is what we need to do. But I'm feeling a little skeptical. You know what I mean? I'm not like 100% sure at this point. I don't want to waste my time anymore, you know? I want to make sure what I'm doing is what I need to be doing, and I don't want to like have some dead code, you know? So anyway, I'll be back. feel like doing this shit, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm tired. This cold got me fucked up, man. This cold got me fucked up, bro. Oh, Lord have mercy on me, dude. I hate getting sick, bro. You know, the man cold? Yeah, that's what I get. The man cold. Basically dead. Alright, let's do this. A little bit more. I'm just gonna do... Honestly, I'm just gonna do like 10 more... I'm gonna do 15 minutes, alright? 15 minutes, then that's it. Okay, so... What do we need to do here? We need to... blob the pickle object... Pickle dumps final object. Insert a place to save object name. And the object name is gonna be... just equal to whatever name in the save object list. That's what we're gonna go with for now. And I think I'm gonna pause on this part. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna determine finish populating database. Determine which function save object we're gonna use for the system. Finish populating database. And we'll add this as a task. Finish creating save logic for each object in database master save object list. And we begin this. Finish creating this logic and save logic dot save state. Alright. So we need to do the list thing first. We're gonna put this task below these two. We'll go through each file and determine what data needs to be saved. So that's what we really need to do first. I mean, I liked doing this little bit of work we did in the save state function just to like work. I needed to make sure I had it right, you know. So now I know basically what we're gonna do as far as how the master save object list is gonna be structured and whether or not it needs to be a list or a dictionary. A list is fine. So what we're gonna do is go through each file and determine which data needs to be saved, basically. So let's go ahead and make a little list of the files. So we're just going to say card. Let's just do .py, copy .py because it's going to be recurring. And then we'll just do each file, I guess, just to be saved, just to be safe. Changed attribute list. Straight up forgot what that file is. Well, we don't need to go through client. Well, yeah, we do. Duh. Client by. Custom append list. Custom logger as well. We're just basically going to go through them all. Custom time list. Do deck. We're gonna do game. Do locations. We're gonna do network. Player. Progression. I don't think we need to do progression. We're just gonna add them and we'll determine that. Reconnect logic. We'll just add it. I know we're not gonna do server, but like this is just the list. Go through it all and figure that out, and that'll be it. I think that's it. Okay, cool. And then we have to go through, each one, and we're just gonna create a list of data points that need to be saved associated with each one. All right. Go through card. Start off with that one. So we have display layer X and Y, ID rank suit. So we don't need to save the ID, the rank, the suit. Change from dirt check. I think we need to save the changed from dirt check, and we don't need the internal. Because when we set these, they will be derivatively set. The prior card group name, that we would need, I think. Just copy all this. So we need the display layer, we need the X, we need the Y. I like this music. It's very happy. It's making me feel joy inside. The little chef. Okay. It's making me feel good. Yeah, all this extra shit. See this? Oops. See how I did that right there? Like that? How you like that? So now this is basically going to be like, do we need it? It's going to be either yes or no. Like, do we need to save it? Yes or no? Alright, we're going to say display layer is definitely yes. X is yes. Y, yes. ID, no, I don't think, because that's assigned through setup. Rank, no. Same story, I think, right? For rank and suit. Change from dirt check. I don't think we need that. I'm gonna just say IDK for right now. Internal X, that will be derivatively set, so no. All these will be derivatively set when we set the actual display layers. Prior card group name, I don't know about that one. Prior X, that one I don't know. Face down image, that's gonna be no. Face up image, no. Changed display layer, I don't know about that one either. We'll have to figure that out. Okay, so I'm basically gonna call it quits here. We're gonna go ahead and go to devlog. So I'm just gonna put that we stopped here. I'll just put right here. 4:20:25 stopped here. This is line 12 and things to do. Is that really how long we've been going? Whoops, I don't know what the fuck I just did right there. This is gonna be to 7:25. So this is an hour and 13 plus 25, that's 38, so that's basically an hour and a half. So, 28. All right, so that's today's date. We did it. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back out here to the 20. Change that to the 28th, and that's it, dudes. All right, so yeah, have a good day, good progress. It's not the best, you know. It's just an hour and a half, so it's alright. I'm happy with it, you know. Overall, we're on the right track. Hopefully, get that list finished up tomorrow, creating it, and then we can probably the day after finish creating the logic for handling saving all those objects skeletonized and for things that need to be skeletonized and shit. Yeah, so that's how we're gonna do it. And so I would say like 2 more days to get that done, and then we can begin working on the load function, and that's basically the reconnect logic and stuff. But well, we're gonna have to add in the code into the main while loop to call the save function, but that's like gonna be really easy. I think that should take like an hour or less. So those 3 tasks, we're looking at like 3 days. It's gonna be finishing the save logic function, finishing populating that save master list, and then finishing the load logic. And yeah, so pretty good progress. I'm happy with it. Getting close.